So first of all, I want to talk about the Backrooms. I'm a big A24 fan, and I've been interested in the Backrooms for a while. So I went to see the movie 2 times now. It's not just horror, not just the monsters, but the man I want to talk about today. Because underneath all the dread and the liminal spaces and existential terror, which is there, this is a movie about a person trapped in a loop of their own making. And that might be the most frightening thing about it, to me personally. It really plays on the psychological horror elements. So first of all, Kane Parsons, 20 years old. He started this as a YouTube series, well, as far as the movie, when he was a teenager. A24 did their thing, and here we go. We got a big debut film, and it's one of their highest grossing films, so congrats to him. I'm a fan of A24 and anybody working with them for the most part. 20 years old. So to go into it a bit more, the psychological precision of this film is remarkable for any filmmaker, let alone that age. So let's talk about Clark, who has his own following already, which is interesting, played brilliantly by Chiwetel Ejiofor. Clark is a failed architect, an architect nonetheless, divorced, alcoholic, running a struggling furniture store that was never his dream. And Ejiofor himself describes the film as a psychological investigation of the character, a man whose mind becomes literally linked to the maze he discovers. That's not on accident. That's kind of like the whole point of the movie in a way. Because the Backrooms, that endless maze of yellow wallpaper and fluorescent lights and damp carpet and every other weird thing going on, doesn't just trap Clark physically. It reflects him and remembers people, as you find out kind of in the film. Kane Parsons describes himself as an echo chamber, a feedback loop of Clark's interior world, vomited onto the walls essentially. The things that appear in there, the twisted copies of people and places, aren't accurate, they're misremembered, poorly reconstructed, and that's an observation all along itself. The Backrooms doesn't even know you well enough to get you right. You don't matter enough to be remembered correctly, which is pretty scary. You are just fragments. It consumes you. Echoes of yourself in a space that doesn't really understand you that well. It's existential dread in the most precise way, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it. His therapist, Dr. Mary Klein, played by Renata Rensselaer. Mary is trying to pull Clark back to reality, back to himself, to make him confront kind of what he's done and experienced. But here's what the film does that most horror movies wouldn't always do. It shows you that Mary is also trapped, not in the Backrooms initially, but in her own loops, her own patterns, her own unresolved trauma. She doesn't have the answers either. And Clark kind of figures that out, which is partly why he ultimately stops listening to her, somewhat tragically, because Clark finds something in the Backrooms that he never found in real life. A sense of purpose, a feeling of belonging, as he admits towards the end of the movie. His obsession with mapping out the maze, the mirrors, the architect he wanted to always become and never became. In there, in that impossible place, he finally feels like he's where he belongs. And by the end of the film, he tells his own monstrous reflection, "We don't have to change. We're okay, buddy." He is seeking validation for every wrong turn he's ever made, essentially, doubling down on the same patterns that got him there. Right up until the moment, well, you'll have to watch the movie and find out. I hope you've already seen it if you're watching this. Pirate Clark, the monster, as you might call it, is not a random creature. He's Clark's rage, his aggression, arguably his refusal to take responsibility and accountability, given physical manifestation. The Backrooms built him out of Clark's interior world, and Clark embraces him in that sense, right before the same reflection destroys him. My observation, The Backrooms is not really a movie about a place so much as it is a movie about what happens when a person refuses to change and stays in cycles. When you retreat so deeply into your own cycles and loops that the world around you starts to reflect them back to you. Distorted, misremembered, just wrong. And the horror isn't just the monster. The horror is recognizing that Clark built that monster based off what was in his head. One bad decision at a time. Go see the film if you haven't already. It will stay with you in the best and the worst way possible. That's my observation for today.